Click it.
Nine.
Now, go over to the other page. Refresh.
the road for 20 years. Now we're in
We're
trouble.
live.
No, that
We're
I
live?
did not do.
Not yet.
Mike.
Do you have our up and recording, Mark? Okay, perfect.
We're live.
Okay, perfect. Workshop Commission meeting, 7:00 p.m., Monday, December 2nd. Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Jacobs? Present.
Here.
Acting Clerk Commissioner Kashem?
Yes.
Clerk Commissioner Hodgkins absent. Vice Mayor Morissette?
Yes.
Mayor Mohammed?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, why does your stack look so much bigger than my stack?
Because I'm smarter. You got
I feel
all.
like, did y'all sneak something in here?
No.
No? Okay.
It's just one-sided. That one is double-sided, and the one I did for you was one-sided.
Okay, okay. Don't scare me. I'm
No,
like,
no.
okay. Are there any deletions or withdrawals to the agenda? I don't see Dave. Okay, guess not. Okay. Then
Well, David is not here yet, is he?
we'll,
Or do you send a colleague? No.
I don't know. Let's reach
Shall
out.
we move him down a little bit?
We will, but I'm gonna find out right quick if he is coming still. Did somebody remind him? No? He's coming? He is? Okay.
Let's just move him down to when he comes.
Okay. He might be happy if you spoke on it. Save him the drive. Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna skip around a little bit. Reports of committees and town staff. Update from Fire Department, Captain Kane. Come on down.
Good evening, Mr. Manager, Madam Mayor, Commission, and staff. Battalion Chief Michael Kane, Broward Sheriff's Office Fire Rescue. I'm here to present the statistics for the town of Pembroke Park for the month of October 2024. In the month of October 2024, we ran 182 calls for service. The breakdown is 16 vehicle accidents, 27 accidents on the highway, 8 structure fires, 112 medical calls for service, 11 fire alarms, and 8 service calls. The number 182 reflects very closely previous months, so nothing out of the ordinary. And that concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions for me?
Does anyone have any questions? No?
Okay, have a great evening. Thank you.
You
You too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Dave is saved by the bell. 6.2, Department monthly updates. Who's gonna
Madam Mayor?
do the presentation? Yes.
Yeah, all the department heads are here. I don't, oh, there's Jeff is back there. So I'm going to call them up in order, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Mayor? Okay, Jeff, you want to come first?
I didn't even see Jeff hiding back there.
I closed that tab and the other one closed down. You're going to find it again. Let's close that.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Jeffrey Lewis, Building and Facilities Manager for Pembroke Park, doing a report for the Building Department and also code compliance. For the Building Department, very simple. We've processed 41 permit applications for commercial projects and mobile home repairs, 125 total plan reviews, and completed 385 inspections from all the trades, and issued 61 permits for the month. The only major project that we have going on right now is Magnolia Townhomes. Sorry. And we're completing the certificate of occupancies for the buildings. There's still outstanding one building. Any questions for the building department?
Nope. I think we're
Oh,
good.
we're good.
Perfect. So I'll move on to code compliance.
Okay.
Their summary is in your backup. However, they had from the October 16th code enforcement meeting, a total of 84 completions, which includes final orders of 5, affidavit of compliance is 18, abatement orders is 6, and notice of violations, which is 18. Do you have any questions in regards to code compliance?
There you go.
You do?
Nope.
Okay. Nope.
Mayor, the next presenter is the police chief, Chief DeCoursey.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Here to present an overview of the Police Department's activity over the last 2 months. In the packet was the number of calls for service that we had handled throughout the month. To give you an overall of that, we handled 955 calls from service from October 1 through the 25th of November. 84 traffic crashes were handled by the agency. 81 alarms, that would be business alarms and residential type alarms, were handled as well. We had 14 burglaries and 272 miscellaneous type calls in the last 2 months, as well as 66 traffic stops for the months of October and November. That coupled with the initiatives and stuff that we're doing administratively within the organization, we have basically began rebranding the agency with the new patches and so on, and getting more community outreach. We met with the people from the Sexual Assault Treatment Center who did a presentation to Deputy Chief, myself, as well as some of the other officers about their services and so on, and how we can co-op with them. So we continue to move the agency forward, and I truly see good things coming in the future. Any questions from anybody?
Just one. Where's the Pilot gas station?
Pardon me?
Where's the Pilot gas station? I was reading a report. I'm like, Pilot? We got a Pilot? I'll show it to you later.
Yeah.
While you're up there, I'm going to switch around so that you can do your MOU for David.
Okay, very good. Real quick, I'm requesting the approval of the commission for an approval of a David system that basically enhances our officers out in the field as our investigators, utilizing the driver and vehicle information databases to further their investigations out in the field, to get pictures of possible suspects on the scene, need be, so that we can get the most critical information out if we have an incident involving a robbery or something like that within the town, or any other types of crimes. It's basically a safety tool for the officers as well, in that some people identify themselves as somebody that they're really not, and this gives them the opportunity to look at the photographs and determine if they are in fact that person, and then continue their investigations from there. It's a standard MOU with the state of Florida, every agency in the state to execute this MOU in order to gain that access. With this comes a compliance component, and now that we have an administrative assistant within our division, we're able to meet that standard. I was hesitant on doing it previously due to the fact that we didn't have that compliance piece in place, which is a requirement for the MOU.
Okay. All right. So if there are no objections, we'll put that on consent for the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Who else do you have?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Our premier report from our new service director, Director Morantis.
Good afternoon, or good evening, rather, Mayor and Commission. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get it higher. As mentioned by Dave, this is my premiere monthly report, and I'm excited to present to you what my department has been doing this past month. So first and foremost, we're looking to bid out by mid-December our Southwest 25th Street Stormwater Improvement project. Also our Southwest 30th Street Sanitary Sewer Force Main Replacement project as well. We were excited to hold a host and assist with the turkey drive, the turkey pardoning, and we've also installed the Christmas lights up front as well. As for this month here, we're looking forward to preparing for the 26th annual turkey, or not turkey, but the toy giveaway drive, which will happen sometime this month here. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
No questions on that. I do want to ask for your assistance. And currently, the FPL is undergrounding the utilities on the west side. if we could possibly reach out to AT&T and Comcast and get them the underground as well. That way we can get rid of the poles completely.
Right.
If you could start that process and getting back to us on that.
Sounds good. We'll work on that.
All right.
Good thinking.
perfect. Appreciate
Good
it.
thinking, Mayor.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We have one more.
Yes.
Our Finance Director, James Daverman.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. I just wanted to give you a finance update for the town as of October 31st of this fiscal year. We were allocated a budget of $1.48 million in October, and the town spent $1.1 million, leaving us $356,000 roughly in the black. So very successful. I don't have any concomitant updates for the sewer or stormwater funds, as we did not initiate any projects as of yet during that month. But I am meeting with our department heads to ensure that we have a line of sight into any future projects, both on their status and what's expected. The only other thing I'd like to add is that you may notice, based on the backup copies that I sent in your emails, that we do not have any revenues posted. That's because we plan revenues on a monthly basis, but we actually receive them on a very spotty basis. They come in very with high levels of variability. So we do expect that the revenues will start to ramp up starting this month. So during our next meeting, we'll have more of a complete picture. Are there any questions?
Nope, thank you.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you all.
What else you got? You're done?
That completes our departments, Mayor.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. 7.1.
Yeah, we
okay.
need Michael is.
I'm going to do
Oh.
David first. 5.1? Oh, okay. Hi. I'm going to do David first. Legislative presentation by Dave Sigerson and the lobbying team.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Excuse me, a little raspy. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm late. I took over an hour to get here from Pompano Beach. It was just a disaster, like a parking lot on I-95. But you should have before you the proposed legislative program for 24-25. It's basically structured into three pieces, three parts. The first part involves policy questions. I start off the report by giving a couple of general policy statements, and then that's followed up in the I section, number one section, with substantive policy statements. I'm not going to go through all of them. They are draft statements mostly, as the League of Cities is having its legislative conference this Thursday and Friday to finalize the wording on those. We generally adopt some or all of those as part of our program, so that we will dovetail with their activities in Tallahassee. We won't concentrate on all of them, but we do generally pick out the ones that are the most important to the town. I do want to point out one in particular under subsection C, Intergovernmental Relations, Mobility, and Emergency Management. One of the two candidates for the priority position for the League happens to be something that is near and dear to the town's heart. I'll read it. Annexation. This is a proposed statement. The town of Pembroke Park / Florida League of Cities supports legislation that facilitates municipal annexation of unincorporated areas in a manner that respects municipal boundaries, protects private property rights, and encourages cooperation between municipal and county governments. This came about because of a dispute in Orange County where a large proposed development area, a very, very large, I am told, I think Chandler told me that this was the largest outstanding single piece of developable land in the state of Florida as under one ownership. And Orange County being the, antagonist, I guess. City of Orlando wanted to, the developer wanted to go into the City of Orlando. City of Orlando wanted to accept them. Orange County had objections. They've actually worked this out, but that particular policy committee found this to be such an important issue and felt as though cities want to protect their ability to expand where necessary and where developments are developing on the edge of their land, on their borders. They want to be able to expand their boundaries for a lot of reasons that I won't go into, having to do with providing provision of services and so forth and so on. So in addition to that statement, the town has traditionally added a clause, which I will read. The town of Pembroke Park supports legislation that would require both municipalities to agree to any annexation proposal as between the two neighboring municipalities. This would obviously protect the town from any kind of encroachments. So moving on to Section 2, which is the appropriations. This was developed in conjunction with your staff and Connie Minash, and with input from D. Carper, I'm sure, and myself. We all, the three of us, talked about it. Actually, the four of us talked about it. One of the projects would be the Southwest 52nd Avenue Roadway Improvement Project. This is a project that is in the vulnerability assessment as a major vulnerable thoroughfare to flooding. And that's, I believe, what led to it being sort of bumped up to the number 1 or 2 position in terms of priorities. Of course, you all have to decide if you want to adopt either one or both of them or another project. But these are the ones that are being put forward by the staff and your consultants. That's a total project cost of $1,136,866. The town would match with $225, so the ask would be a little over $900,000. Then the other one of primary importance are the lift stations 17 and 19. 17, as you know, is the one that services Watkins Elementary, and 19 is the one that services a major economic engine for the town, namely Coca-Cola. And so these projects together are about just over $3 million. The town contribution or the asks would be about $2.5 million as a combined project. I don't know if we're going to be able to submit them as one project. We may have to split them into 2 projects since they're 2 different things. But that's something that I have not had a chance to talk to Connie about or Chandler. So those are the 2 appropriations projects. The third section is not filled out yet because the third section of the report has to do with specific legislation that is pre-filed that would specifically affect the town of Pembroke Park or municipalities in general. And since the last time I checked, which admittedly was a couple of days ago, there had not been any pre-filed bills that, other than relief bills and then a couple of others that had been filed, but none of them affect a municipality in general or specifically Pembroke Park. And so it's. Oh, and I would point out also one of the things that we regularly do under going back to Section 1 under subsection A. We also monitor mobile home legislation because a number of years ago, the legislature tried to pass legislation that would have required a municipality to pay the moving costs of any mobile home park that they allowed to be taken over by a developer and redeveloped. That would have bankrupted the town. At the time, there were the developers were circling around trying to buy mobile home parks in Pembroke Park, and so we monitor for that or any other infringement upon whatever home rule power the town has, which has to do with setbacks and codes and so forth and so on over mobile home parks. That's something else that I wanted to point out. And as also, I might want to add that as directed by this commission at the workshop on the 23rd of October, I have looked into the possibility of legislation having to do with alternative forms of removal of local elected officials. And for that, that was a difficult task. I'm still working on it. It's not a done deal. It's something there are, as town attorney and I discussed, there's difficult. First of all, you have to lay out behavior, very specific behavior that would rise to the level of a procedure to remove. You would have to provide a procedure for that, and you would have to ensure procedural fairness and due process. And so those are all not easy to do. I have looked at two methodologies. One I would call the Pennsylvania method or the Pennsylvania model, and the other is the West Virginia model. The Pennsylvania model, I came to the conclusion that it would require a constitutional amendment to expand the legislature's, well, let me explain the Pennsylvania method. The Pennsylvania model requires the legislature to impeach and the Senate to hold a trial. Conviction. The Constitution of the state of Florida says on that subject that, where is this? Article 3, Section 17 of the Florida Constitution provides, Sub A, the governor, lieutenant governor, members of the cabinet, justices of the Supreme Court, judges of the district courts of appeal, judges of circuit courts, and judges of county courts shall be liable to impeachment, and in parenthesis, by the Florida legislature for misdemeanors in office. Now, since that list specifies the offices that are subject to impeachment, that is to say there is no elastic phrase or no general description of an office holder in a general way, such as elected officer or elected official or public official, or as it's used in the Pennsylvania Constitution, a civil officer, that are not used in that section, as sometimes appears in other states' constitutions or impeachment provisions. So it is my belief that such an expansion of the House impeachment power would require a state constitutional amendment. The West Virginia model is a model that uses a circuit court, where you bring action in circuit court by one of three ways: either a resolution enacted by the governing body, by the state attorney, or by a petition by a specified number of voters registered to vote in a municipal jurisdiction. They group theirs into cities of different sizes, 1 through 4. If I drafted it, I would simply make it a percentage of registered voters. I would also make it require an extraordinary majority of a commission to pass a resolution for such a removal as a protection, as a procedural protection. And then once that process begins, I won't go through all of the three ways that the removal gets before the circuit court, but once it does, then it's basically like any other case. After a resolution, petition, or charges by a state attorney have been submitted, normal judicial procedures would apply. A notice to appear would be issued, a preliminary hearing scheduled. The court shall require signature validations and would be authorized to evaluate any resolution, petition, or state attorney charge for procedural defects and dismiss it if it finds such procedural defects. The court would also be authorized to review the resolution, petition, or state attorney charges for legal sufficiency. And as with any other civil litigation, the court is authorized to hear objections and motions pertaining to the case. And if it finds that there were no procedural defects and that the resolution, petition, or state attorney charges are legally sufficient, then the court would set the matter for trial before a 3-judge panel appointed by the Supreme Court. At least one of the judges would have to be from the circuit from which the challenged officer serves. And then I looked at the Florida Constitution, Article 5, Section 5, which gives circuit courts their jurisdiction. And it says in pertinent part, the circuit court shall have original jurisdiction not vested in any county court. They shall have the power to issue writs and all writs necessary and proper to the complete exercise of their jurisdiction. This authority is quite open-ended, and furthermore, statutory authority is granted circuit courts on a fairly regular basis by the legislature. So I feel that this is on safe ground in terms of its legality or constitutionality. comment, City Attorney?
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, I mean, I would certainly agree with your first comment. I think that I think it was the Pennsylvania model that you referred to. I would have some concerns as far as the authority set out in the Florida Constitution. I do think the circuit court has quite a broad jurisdiction in the state of Florida. Getting into the courthouse, I think, would be one of the key components as to who the plaintiff in that action would be, whether it be a particular individual or the city itself. There may be some opportunity there. I'd want to do some research as to whether or not, be it a deck action or some other writ, would effectuate the ability to affect the term of an elected official. I think that would require some research, but again, I think that would be a more palatable option than the first option laid out, which I think is prohibited by the Constitution.
Yeah, the West Virginia model also provides that the entity or persons bringing the action would be responsible for prosecuting it. And I would also add to that as a procedural matter that at least in an instance where the challenged officer prevails, then their attorney's fees should be paid for by whoever brings the action, whether it's the state or whether it's the city or whatever.
And I'd also just offer that there are some unique provisions in Florida law that speak to removal of elected officials that is entirely preempted to the state. I mean, there's no local ability to remove an officer. I know we've had that discussion. The municipal recall provision is fairly broad in its scope in the context of Florida law, and it prevails and preempts any charter provision that provided for a recall. That is the clearest way that Florida law allows for an elected official to be removed from office under the recall provision in Chapter 112. And then we know, we've talked about before, the governor's authority, which also is plenary in this context, and really the probably first potential option to the extent the commissioner wanted to look further into that opportunity.
Yeah, that's another area that I looked into is expanding 11251, the governor's authority, to make it broader. I think that our friends and partners in the other municipalities would be a little nervous about that. But I have not tested this outside of my own office yet. But I'll be sending the town attorney and Richard Coates, who also does an awful lot of work in the area of ethics and elections law, copies of what I have so far to see what their comments are. This is not something I think that we should enter into lightly. I think we need to be, have all our ducks in a row. This is going to be, at best, controversial, no matter what method or path we choose on this. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
No. I think we're good. Thank you, Dave. Okay, now I'm going to go into 7.1.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Town Council, City Manager. My name is Andrea Harper, acting Town Planner, sitting in for Mike Vonder-Meulen tonight. 7.1, I think you have that in your packet. Do you have any questions on that particular item at all?
Does anyone have any questions? If not, then we will skip on to 7.2.
Okay. 7.2, I want to do a brief presentation. We have the public storage facility, proposing 2 applications before you.
Does the presentation include 7.2 and 7.3?
Yes.
Okay, so just for the record, Mayor
Thank you,
Commission, the
thank you.
presentation will include both 7.2 and 7.3.
Okay. That's, yes. Cynthia, do you have a clicker or?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I know. You're first. Sorry. And I'll have a brief presentation, and the applicant, he'll follow me. Should be at the end, Cynthia.
The presentations.
Yeah, it should be at the end.
It's not coming up. My apologies. It's not coming.
There was a lot of attached documents.
It's the presentation that it's the last one.
There we go.
Well, keep
This is
going.
it, right?
Keep
Yeah,
going.
that's,
So that's what's going to be
Oh.
instead of the
looks like
existing.
it to me.
Nope, keep going down, down.
Down?
Yeah. Okay, go up a little, right there. Yeah. Okay. Do you have a clicker or no pointer? So you're gonna have to assist me, okay? If you don't mind. All right, go ahead to the next screen. Okay, the applicant has two requests: the site plan approval. They want to demolish the existing building, and they're proposing one 5-story self-storage at 775 square foot. Also, another application is the parking reduction request. The code requires 352 spaces. They're coming in with 29. That's why they need a parking reduction. Next is this is the existing site. It's located in the southeast corner of Pembroke Park and southwest 31st Avenue. The site is zone industrial, sits on an acre, 2.4 acres. Next screen. This is what the site's gonna look like. Nicely landscaping. The access points will be off of southwest 31st Ave. Go ahead to the next. Once again, parking reduction. Here at Pembroke Park, we have a very restricted code. Based on our parking code, it's 1.6, one space per 600 square feet, which rounds off to 250 per, but they're providing 26. Just recently, there were 2 self-storage facilities coming in, and they were able to get parking reduction study. So the 2 was one off of JP Lyons self-storage with 25 spaces, and the Seneca self-storage spaces with 36. And we're proposing 29 spaces, the applicant is, based on that parking reduction. Go to the next screen. Here's a rendering of the northwest view. And this concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions?
How many parking lots is on the one on Park Road?
How many?
It's a similar building size. Oh, you don't have that
No,
information?
I don't have that information.
I don't think there's more
But
than 10 spots there.
if you don't mind, I'd like the applicant come up and do their presentation. If
Okay. Come on down.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the commission, Mr. Manager, and welcome to the clerk. My name is Brian Adler. I'm an attorney at Bills and Sundberg, 1450 Brickell Avenue, Suite 2300. I'm joined this evening by Matt Toussaint, who is the Vice President of Development for this area. He flew in, he's Vice President for Public Storage. He flew in this evening to be before you, as well as Lorelei Mewherter, who is from O'Brien Architects. Also flew in. She does a lot of the public storage facilities for public storage. And we also have Brett Goldstein from Bowler, who is the engineer. So everyone's here to answer some questions if you have any questions. I do have a presentation, so I want to thank you first for the opportunity to present this evening. This is a site that's actually owned by Public Storage, so there are different types of storage developments. Some are developed and owned by separate parties. Some are developed and owned by the companies. As Ms. Harper noted, this is about a 2.5 acre, 2.4 acre site. It is on Pembroke Road, adjacent to I-95. It's the northernmost portion of the town, right before, it's the last site, right before you get on I-95. So you've got the railroad on one side, you've got the railroad, then I-95, you've got 31st Avenue on the other side, and you've got Pembroke Road fronting. The site was acquired by Public Storage in 1978, and it was developed in 1979. So this is a 45-year-old site. If we can go to the next slide. So this will orient you to the property. You can see I-95 to the right and the railroad tracks, and then 31st Avenue to the west. If we can go to the next slide. So the property, as Ms. Harper noted, it's designated as industrial on your comprehensive plan, and it's zoned M1 already. So this is an existing zoning. It is existing and developed already with a public storage facility. And so what this would be doing is seeking to upgrade and modernize an existing facility and adding capacity in the town. I know that the town is exploring a moratorium on storage facilities, but this is an opportunity. This is a win-win situation. This is taking existing site, redeveloping it, modernizing it, and increasing capacity within the town without taking any additional real estate. So if we can go to the next slide. So this is what's there now. This is what was typical 45 years ago and even sooner. What they're looking to do is replace the site, and this is a zero setback type of site. So as you drive up 31st Avenue, the building's walls are actually the setback. So it's right on the street on 31st. This is Pembroke Road, so you can see how it's lined. It's lined with the garage door style roll-ups. What they're looking to do is replace that with a new modern building, which is a 5th generation climate controlled building. And these buildings are much more secure from a security standpoint, from a pedestrian conflict standpoint. This is typical of if you will, drive aisles and cars in between. And what they're looking to do is centralize and take down. There are 7 buildings on site right now, and it would be replacing the 7 older style buildings with a newer 5-story building that is permitted under your code at that height. If you can go to the next slide, please. So again, it's permitted in M1. It's going to 5 stories, about 53 and a quarter, so we'll call it 55 feet high. The code allows 80 as of right, or up to 100 with a special exception or conditional use by the town. It's taking a 42,000 square foot site building and replacing it with 210,000 square feet, but meeting all of your setbacks. So instead of having 0 setbacks and lining the site with buildings on 31st and with the garage roll-up doors, it's setting the building back, centralizing it, and complying with all the setbacks. And if you can go to the next slide. So this is what the site will look like in a site plan schematic. So it's getting rid of the 7 buildings. On the west side, it's a building lining 31st Avenue, which is going to be eliminated. It's a building lining the rear, a building lining the east. So you've really got 0 setbacks on 3 sides. This is going to centralize it and meet all the requirements, and it's going to get rid of the seven buildings and go from to a single building. Again, 5 stories, much more modern. I did borrow a slide from the Keith presentation. If I can go to the next slide. Because I think this really accentuates what you're looking at. Instead of having the roll-up doors on Pembroke Road, we're going to have landscaping on Pembroke Road, landscaping on 31st Avenue, some landscaping on the east side, but that's not really the focus because that's next to the railroad and I-95. So they're really concentrating and improving the aesthetics of the site while providing additional capacity. If we can go to the next slide. So as Ms. Harper noted, there are 2 requests before you. One is under the code. If you're developed and you have a development approval and you're coming in to modify it, it comes to the commission for approval. The second one is a parking reduction. Under the code, the parking required would be 1 per 600, as Ms. Harper noted. That's because, if we can go to the next slide, the code has one category for industrial, and that's number 9. So whether you are an Amazon logistics heavy intense use, or you're a storage facility, which under the IT manual is the lowest trip generator and the use that's needed, and one of the lowest parking generators, it's calculated the same. However, the town code specifically acknowledges this, and what we're seeking is not a variance. It's actually a provision in the code that is for a parking reduction. So a variance would be, we'll require this number of spaces, and we're seeking to provide less than is required by the code. What the code says is, if we can go to the next slide, this is 28-301, and it's entitled Parking Reduction. And what it says is, when you evaluate a parking reduction, we recognize that not all industrial uses are created equal. You've got your Amazon facilities, and so we're going to provide the 1 per 600 because we know those are intense. But if you're an industrial use that is a low intensity use, then you come in and we get evaluated under 3 basic criteria. One is concurrency. Do we meet concurrency? This has been evaluated by your town's outside planners, but also I believe they use an outside traffic consultant as well, and it's determined that we will not degrade the roads, etc. The second one is it the use that supports such a determination? We submitted a traffic analysis and a parking study, and that parking study says, based on the ITE, which is what's used by all the international traffic engineers, says that our need is actually 19 spaces for this site. We're actually coming in at more than 50% more. We're coming in at 29 spaces to give some cushion, but knowing that it is 19. Public storage has a vested interest in providing parking on site. They don't want to provide less parking than is needed. So at 29, they're actually exceeding what is required by the IT and would be required by many jurisdictions. If we can go to the next slide. Oh, if we can go back one, I'm sorry. And that the parking arrangement proposed will be adequate to meet the needs. That is what is evidenced by our parking study. Parking study was sent by Keith to the outside reviewers. They reviewed it, they confirmed, and it meets the requirements. And if we can go to the next one. So I use Miami-Dade County just as an example. Miami-Dade County used to have a similar provision of higher parking. They recognized that this facility would require 352 parking spaces. We'd have to build a parking garage for parking storage. And they recognized that most of these parking spaces are essentially vacant. So they created a tiered type of use, and they said separate requirement. They said 1 space for every 5,000 for the first 20,000 and 1 per 10,000 thereafter. They went higher than would be needed, knowing that they're providing a cushion. And even under that higher standard, we would be required 25. We're providing 29. And I bring this up because this is not atypical of many jurisdictions using this type of a tiered approach for self-storage facilities. Almost every jurisdiction carves out, but your code doesn't carve it out, but acknowledges that there's a process to lower the amount of parking that would be required generally. So if we can go to the next slide. So this is an analysis. This is part of our parking analysis. The ITE is, again, the international traffic engineers manuals that are used by traffic engineers, concurrency review. And the parking demand would be 19 based on that. We're providing 29. We do show 2 other facilities that are different amounts. And what the IT manual says is you need about 1 space per 11,000 square feet. People go to a storage facility, they put the things in, they often do not go back, and when they go back, it's not during the peak times, or when they go back, they're generally all not there at the same time. I have a storage facility. I'm going to say I haven't been in probably a year and something, so I'm one of the people who do not need the parking spaces. But Vice Mayor, you asked about other sites, so I don't have that specific one, but the IT says 1 per 11,000.
Less, I believe.
That's less. They don't need that many parking spots.
No.
Nobody's there.
Yeah.
Crap off, you leave. Pay them a check every month.
And that's generally what happens. But in comparison, there are 2 others. One is providing about 1 per 6,000. One is providing 1 per 8,700. We're at about 1 per 7,000 something. And very often, those are empty sites and empty spaces in the majority of the sites. If we can go to the next slide. So one thing that we do want to note, this is not our first reiteration of the site plan. Our original versions, we were going to keep some of the roller buildings and do a centralized site. What they decided to do is tear down the entire site and really come into the town with a modern, clean site. Our original approach was, right now we have 2 access points on Pembroke Road. of course, we would love to keep the 2 access points on Pembroke Road. Unfortunately, FDOT, when we went through the process, they're actually in the process of doing improvements on I-95, which is also going to affect the approaches to I-95. I have the letter, which I can pass out, but FDOT's conditions basically says you must close the existing 2 Pembroke Road driveways, and your access must be on 31st Avenue, essentially. So with this, what the town ends up with is beautification along Pembroke Road, because instead of access points, you actually get a fully landscaped area. We are having access on 31st Avenue that is eliminating certain parking on 31st Avenue, but whether we come in for redevelopment or not, FDOT is going to be, if we can go to the next slide, is slated to do improvements, and that's around our site, and you can see right in front of us. So we would have to, even if we have the existing site, we'd have to tear down buildings and punch through on Pembroke Road, on 31st, if they're going to do that as well. That hearing is now slated for March of this year. March 25th, I think, is a Zoom, and March 27th in person. So these are going to be hearings, and it's not just Pembroke Road, it's basically from County Line up through at least Hollywood. And if we can go to the next slide. So in your staff report, they did look at the parking considerations, and they did make a determination that it is something that an office building is 1 per 300 for a crowded office building, where it would be double half of what's required by an office building, but for empty spaces. It's not a people intense, very few employees, very few people coming in and out.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask one question. Do you do on-site parking storage or no?
On-site parking,
Yeah, you know how like they rent out for boats and.
no. Sorry, there will be no on-site storage, on-site vehicle rental on this property. All the parking spaces we're showing are for utilization, and we anticipate they will probably not even be half full with what we're providing. If we can go to the next slide. And so staff notes that this is the concurrency aspect, so it's not going to degrade the level of service. And if we can go to the next slide. So this is what is looking to replace what's there now. You've got the roll-ups, you've got the antiquated style with a site that's much better for pedestrian and vehicular conflicts, because right now you have 7 buildings with rows and cars going in and out of the rows or stopping in the rows. So having a centralized site is going to make it much better. It's much more aesthetically pleasing. It's centered to the site, so your setbacks are not instead of being lined with buildings, you're being lined with trees. And if we can go to the next slide. And so this is another depiction of it. And I do have some more information on 31st Avenue parking, but I think I submitted a letter. I copied you all with a copy of the letter. And with that, we do view this as a win-win. There's going to be, I think, 39 trees and 15 palms on the site as compared to now. So this is one where, again, while you have a moratorium, I think this is the type of development that you want to see replace existing ones. With that, we are available for questions, and we do seek your support and hopefully your placement on the next available commission agenda. So.
Does anyone have any questions regarding this?
No, I don't see any negative impact to the town. On the contrary.
So, you guys, unless you want to stay in South Florida, because I'm not sure where you flew in from, but we really don't even need you at the next meeting. And you can put that on the agenda for next week.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just very briefly, if I can, there was a meeting that the applicant had over at Town Hall, and as you may know from the memo I sent this commission, Commissioner Hodgkins participated in that communication, and we really put the applicant through their paces. Our consultant has given it a thumbs up. This particular site, I won't say it's ugly right now, but it's certainly really being beautified by this project. So the director of that department, Jeff Lewis, is here. He participated in that meeting, and he physically did a reinspection of these premises after we had that meeting. And the administration is giving its full support to approve the site plan and the parking application, which is also item number 29 on your agenda tonight.
Okay. So with that, I think everyone's okay with this, that if you want to stay in South Florida, you want to enjoy the weather, then stay. If not, you don't have to. because I think all your questions are answered. I think everyone's in agreement that this is a major improvement from what was there, even though the moratorium is for new stuff coming in. I think that, and it hasn't even passed yet any which way.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Well, remember, the resolution setting the moratorium was adopted at the last commission meeting. This application came in long before that was adopted, so this was procedurally in order.
But the moratorium isn't for the public storage yet. The moratorium was to put the process in place to do a moratorium.
No, it was
You passed it when I was there.
the resolution. There was second reading of the ordinance, and the resolution was adopted establishing for the moratorium for 6 months.
Oh, nice. Okay, thank you.
We're way ahead of you, Mayor.
Ah, okay. See, I can skip out. Gonna skip some more meetings. Okay, so yeah, I think you're fine.
Okay. I do want to thank the manager for taking the time to meet with us, and also with Ms. Harper, because we have worked through many reiterations to get to the point where it does satisfy the town. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So it'll be on for next meeting. December 12th. 11th, 12th.
11th.
I just want to reconfirm the advertising requirements, make sure we have sufficient time to advertise, because it is a quasi-judicial item. So let's just make sure we can get the advertising done. Assuming that's in order, then that meeting will be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
We are going to go down to 9.2, renewal of Barracuda. And Mark, we're going to keep you up there and knock you out, and then Jeffrey, and then we're done. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Mark Bakula, IT Director, Town of Pembroke Park. 9.2 is a renewal for things we use for Barracuda. Pretty straightforward. We've been using it for years.
We're fine to do the
Yeah,
renewal?
we've for each of the items that Mark is going to present, we reviewed the backup contracts from a procurement perspective. Everything is legally in order.
Okay, consent. 9.3, new Dell hardware.
This is just a yearly hardware that we are ordering with a lot of new employees. A lot of stuff is old, and these are all budgeted items.
Okay. Consent. Transitioning to no B.
No B4. Yeah, so we use security training for Ningio. Real quick, we're switching to this. It's a little more expensive, but this aligns with things that the grant for next year is going to pay for. So we're trying to switch over to that and make it easier for us to get free money for this to get it paid for. So,
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? If not, we can put it on consent. Thank you. And then,
9.5. So this is something that,
Jude, that's Jeffrey.
no, it's me.
Okay.
So it's Jeffrey worked very hard on it. I want to give the building department, everybody in that department, code. They've all been working on this for the last year. We've had a lot of meetings. We've seen a lot of different software. We've all come to the conclusion that, where is it? That Civic Plus is the one we want to go with. It aligns with what we use for our website. We also, Jeffrey and I were talking with them today. We also got them to give us at a very discounted rate C-Click Fix. That's something that the commission has brought up multiple times. It's a program that integrates with everything, especially code. You can take this program, and if a employee or resident sees something with the app, they can click a picture, sends it right over to code. They can examine it, take a look at what's going on. It's built in. So Jeffrey and I were negotiating with them on that. The pricing is not much more than we are paying now. It's about, I want to say, about $5,000 more than what we were paying for the old software, which we all know how that was for us. That's a software that is going to be sunsetted. We'd like to get off of it before we really have to, and that's where we are with this. The annual for that is it's $27,000 to do the setup and total install and conversion, and you're looking at an annual about $23,000 a year. Those are all budgeted items, and it'll be for BTR, code, and the building department. And it does have that search feature, like you had mentioned, Mayor, about going on, so you could look, if you're a resident, if there's anything pending on your property, any cases, liens, things like that that we put out, it's built into there.
So you knew I was going there.
I know you were going. I just want to cut you off.
Turning, like, wait, okay.
It has everything you want. That's one of the reasons. And it's priced. Everything else priced very much more than we looked at. And, this fits our budget.
Okay, perfect. Any questions on it?
No, let's move to.
Consent. And then do you want to just tell them about Just Serve or no, not really? The justserve.org that I signed us up for?
If you want to, we've signed up for justserve.org. I believe that Kevin over in the Gardens has been using it. It's a free service, so we like free. I think it'll help get the word out. He signed us up. I believe Kevin right now is the administrator on it. And I think when we get the right staff in place, we'll be able to use it a lot more. It's another way to let people know what's going on. It also lets us look at other cities and what they're doing. And it so you can say, I want to sign up for this and that. And if someone's doing something similar in another city, you get to see what they're doing. So it's a way to include a lot of cities throughout Broward County.
Okay.
Inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. We're done. Now let me stop. Any attorney comments?
Just quickly, Mayor Commission, at the last commission meeting, I was asked to provide a update on the pending litigation. I will have that for you at your regular meeting next week. I just want to remind you all again, to the extent that any member of the commission needs any ethics hours before the end of the year, just to reach out, let me know. We'll make sure that there's ample opportunity to satisfy the ethics training requirement. But that's all I have, Mayor Commission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Town manager comments?
Just briefly, members of the commission, I'm anticipating getting that meeting with the representatives of the EPA concerning that property where we had some leaching into the soil, and that is, as you know, part of a Superfund project. I expect a full report back to this body before the end of the year, and those are all my comments this evening, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Assistant town manager, do you have any comments?
None.
Okay. Commissioner Jacobs, any comments?
None.
Acting Clerk Commissioner Kishim? No. Vice Mayor Morissette?
Just a question there regarding the EPA. It's in District 1, and they've been kicking the can down the road for, I don't know, decades. Do they have like a timeline where they're actually going to put a shovel in the ground and do something real?
Yeah, they have tentatively said that they're going to put a shovel in the ground within the next 6 months. Part of the difficulty we're having, though, is we want to see the specific plan. They made a presentation to this body at one point, but it still left some unanswered questions. And we just want to make sure that there are some health and safety issues that are addressed. Because as you know, once you start putting the shovel in the ground, things become friable and you have other difficulties possibly for the neighborhood. So we expect to get those resolved, and we'll get them to answer those questions. We won't allow a shovel in the ground until we make sure that everybody's protected, but we'll report back in specifics on that question.
There are going to be some issues with a couple of mobile homes in my park because they need to remove those homes and replace the soil under them. And how do we protect those residents?
Well, that's part of the issues that we're wrestling with them. The other problem is quite a bit of time has gone by since the last time they presented, and there may have been some additional leaching. So we may have to expand even further. And, that's one of the problems with Superfund projects. Once you open that can of worms, you find out the worms have gone to a lot of other places as well. So we'll make sure we're fully protected on those issues and as it relates to the groundwater as well.
Thank you. I have no more.
The only comment I have is that I want to thank staff for I'm sorry. See, I was trying to get out of here. I turned my mic off already. I want to thank staff for the wonderful job that they did for the events that we've had in the past, the turkey giveaway, the pardoning, and things like that. They did a great job, and I just want to thank them that the town wouldn't be able to do these events without our staff and them putting in their hard work. I know, Cynthia, you're new, and you showed up. I was really surprised to see you standing here giving out turkeys on your first week. Was that your first day or second day? Yeah, so I just want to thank staff for doing an exceptional job, and we look forward to doing these events again, and we want to thank you for dedicating your time in the evening time when you don't have to be here to help our residents, so thank you.
You should have been here to the pardoning.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm sure Tom would have liked you.
Tom would have gotten cooked.
Hey, there might be children listening in.
It was in his best interest.
He was 9 years old. I wouldn't eat him.
I'm going vegan. Just on that one. Announcement 14.1, regular commission meeting Wednesday, December 11, 2024 at 7 p.m. Is the collective bargaining session going to occur on Thursday the 12th? Okay. And then the special commission meeting as well on Thursday, December 12th.
We can't
And
get enough meetings.
I know, and the toy giveaway is going to be on December 19th. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn, I hope.
Motion
Yes.
to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 8:03. Mhm.
It was actually fun. You know what?
Uh-oh, no.
Town manager can sing.
Okay.
Talk to him.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Aye. Okay.
Telling you. You should have a race for that.
Yes.
Or the time that was done. He didn't even say anything. He didn't really say anything of substance.
Nothing in the code that talks about annual